Chers collègues, je prends la parole sur l'interpellation de la sénatrice Coyle pour trouver des solutions pour faire la transition de la société, de l'économie et de l'utilisation des ressources du Canada dans la poursuite d'un avenir juste, prospère, durable et paisible, à zéro émission nette pour notre pays et la planète. Les jours du dépassement du Canada, c'est-à-dire les jours où notre pays a utilisé sa part de toutes les ressources que la Terre peut régénérer pendant une année entière, étaient le 13 mars pour 2022. Malgré ces imperfections, cet indicateur est facile à comprendre et reflète le caractère non durable de notre système socio-économique. Le Canada épuise les ressources d'une année en seulement 2,5 mois. Pourtant, nous avions l'habitude de gaspiller beaucoup moins. Au début des années 70, les jours du dépassement du Canada se situaient à la fin du mois de décembre, là où ils devraient être. Dans notre propre intérêt, nous devons devenir une nation durable. Nous devons être plus efficaces et attentifs lorsque nous utilisons les ressources naturelles. Our way of life, our behavior, have pushed the current system to its limits. Overall, there is a positive correlation between waste generation and income level. Hence, it's our responsibility as a developed, rich nation to redress and set an example. The global demand for material resources is expected to double by 2060. It will cause environmental damage, including rise in greenhouse gas emissions, waste, and associated pollution if we don't find a rapid, smart, sustainable solutions, and if we don't change the paradigm of considering citizens uniquely as consumers in a linear economic system that takes, makes, and wastes. The strain of the global climate system has been observed by scientists for decades, and the cause of planet warming is unequivocally the result of human-induced greenhouse gas emissions. Current average global temperatures are close to 1.2 degrees above the pre-industrial level, while Canada has experienced twice this warming and the Arctic 3 times. These changes are leading to the destruction of basic infrastructure by extreme weather events that all Canadians have experienced. Climate change is a systemic risk because it affects us everyone, everywhere. Intense heat waves, melting of permafrost, sea level rise, shore erosion, forest fires, tornadoes and hurricanes, atmospheric rivers, loss of biodiversity and species extinction are happening now, here. 2022 will be known as the year when extreme weather events became the norm, when cost of reparations amounted to billions per event. I recently viewed the film The Issue with Tissue, a boreal love story by Michelle Selnicker. I encourage you to watch it. You will see the direct relationship between our consumption habits, the destruction of natural capital, and our blunt inaction. Understand this. More than 5,000 wild species are at some risk of extinction in Canada. For example, despite of its status of protected species, the 3 families of Canadian caribou are at risk of extinction, including the once mighty George and Leaf River herds of Labrador and Quebec. Senator Odette can tell you lots more about the disappearance of these species and its importance to Indigenous people. But I'm here to speak about solutions and to say that Canadians are looking and waiting for this chamber to play its role of sober second thought and come up with a constructive debate, propose effective solutions to the connected multiple crises that we are all experiencing, and without leaving nobody behind. A first solution at hand is that markets will address pollution and its impact. As responsible corporations, they must address the negative externalities, exactly as a responsible citizen. They created these negative externalities by providing efficient means to manage them. It is urgent to implement alternative models of production and consumption while addressing the letdowns of our linear system. We must transform to a circular economy where subproducts, such as waste and other non-value materials, are reintegrated to the system. The main principles actually are very simple. Use less resources, design more durably, ban planned obsolescence, provide services loop such as repair that extend within product lifetimes, slow rates of extraction, use less toxic or polluting substances, improve the collection and management of waste, and reprocessing of materials to get the most out of the material by creating a value in each stage of reuse. In sum, if a product can be reduced, can be reused, can be repaired, rebuilt, refinished, resold, recycled, or degraded, then it should be restricted, redesigned, or removed from production. A second solution, dramatically needed if Canada chooses to remain competitive during the ongoing third industrial revolution and knowledge economy, is the shift to renewable energy for electricity production. I was today locked in for the budget. I put a press release. There is money for electricity. I'm very happy, but we can do better. The Canadian renewable sector, although thriving in provinces such as Alberta, is in general lagging behind in the rest of the country. We simply aren't displacing fossil fuels with renewable energy quickly enough. Most G7 countries have succeeded in decoupling growth from greenhouse gas emissions because they developed and implemented clean energy. Contrary to fossil fuels, electricity from renewables follows learning curves where production costs are kept dramatically falling. At present, renewable energy is the safest, the cleanest, and the cheapest. And Canada has the resources to be a world leader. The East Coast alone has enough potential of wave power to double our current installed generating capacity. Dear colleagues, why, despite having the longest coastline, the highest tides, and among the highest waves in the world, why we don't use wave or tidal renewable energy? My office has published a white paper on the best policies for a clean recovery post-COVID-19, and a second white paper on sustainable finances aiming at net zero greenhouse gas emissions before 2050. By implementing similar or adapted approaches to those that have worked around the world, we can not only accelerate the transformation, but we can render our economy more sustainable and aligned with our pressing realities and needs. Among these approaches, we found that proposed bills that can be viewed through both to a climate lens that will consider impacts to future generations and a social justice lens that can ensure benefits and costs of the transition are distributed equitably. Financial support for the transition can focus on helping people first and then corporations. When financial assistance is provided to corporations, it should be accompanied with accountability and enforceable measures, verifiable goals that contribute to human but also to ecosystem well-being. We can ask if our government financial support to development projects protect and regenerate natural capital and ecosystem. We can ask if indigenous communities have been consulted and if they can be supported in the role of guardians of indigenous lands and biodiversity. Fisheries, forestry, and agriculture are sectors that still operate under unsustainable approaches. Several fish stocks are disappearing. Boreal forests are being clear-cut. Agricultural soils are impoverished. by overuse of heavy mechanized operations, synthetic fertilization, and pesticides. These sectors need to rethinking, and operations need to be optimized. We can support actions so municipalities adapt to the climate change now by building future-proof critical infrastructure, by building right the first time and in the right place, and use natural infrastructures as first lines of defense against flooding and erosion. Every government investment could go in the direction of building forward better, which coincides with economically and environmentally efficient projects that allow for recouping its costs while serving to reduce inequality. Colleagues, il existe de nombreuses solutions aux problèmes qui se posent à nous tous et que nous ne pouvons plus ignorer. Ce dont nous avons besoin, c'est de la volonté et de l'intention de protéger nos enfants et leurs générations actuelles et futures. As President Biden said last week, a future where we understand that economic success is not in conflict with the right and the dignity of workers or meeting our responsibilities addressing the climate crisis, but rather those things depend on us doing that factually. Close quote. Colleagues, you know, the U.S. Inflation Reduction Act is a game changer, and we need to step up our game if we don't want to be left behind. Pour conclure, nous entendons des arguments sur les coûts de l'action. Je vous mets au défi de justifier les coûts économiques, financiers, sociaux et moraux de la inaction. En 2011, la Table ronde nationale sur l'environnement et l'économie a prédit que les coûts de la inaction pourraient atteindre 91 milliards de dollars par an au Canada d'ici 2050. L'Institut climatique du Canada estime que d'ici 2025, demain, notre produit interne brut national aura diminué de 25 milliards de dollars. En 2055, il sera inférieur de 80 à 103 milliards de dollars. La inaction ou le maintien du statu quo entraîne la destruction de notre capital naturel, qui représente une part importante de notre PIB. Je vous demande de réfléchir à ce que vous faites pour protéger la subsistance des Canadiens et l'économie canadienne des impacts des crises interconnectées, du changement climatique, de la perte de la biodiversité, la crise économique et financière. Ce que vous faites pour ouvrir la voie à une économie net, zéro, prospère. Merci, thank you, Megwich.